Guys, Master Squid here. This is my first YouTube video, as you can see. That's why you found me on this video edits tab or OBS Studio. So my peak rating online is 2100. My form has fallen off quite a lot, so trying to get my form back recently. I said for my first YouTube video, I'm gonna do a rapid game, just a random one. We're starting from 1800, so let's see if we can move back up to 2000 gradually. Without further ado, e4, e5, knight f3. Let's see what opening black chooses. Knight c3. So we're in the realms now of four knights games. You'll see typically something like knight c3, knight f6, d4. After d4, maybe bishop b4. We've seen this type of variation as well. And then something along those lines. But okay, without predicting too much, let's go knight c3. And let's see what type of game we get. Opponents from Ukraine. All right, now we're away from the realm of knight of d4. Remember this line, you have to play knight a4, hitting the bishop, and this is actually very testing. Most players as black are not expecting this move. And now we've basically gone back to simplifying the game. Afterwards, we then want to push the pawn, takes, knight takes, knight takes, and then queen takes, and then we'll have control of the center to some degree, a bit more than our opponent. Now is it the right time to play? Now, yes, we can just pre-move the next moves, and I think we're fine. All right, queen f6. So he doesn't take straight away. Okay, we don't change our plans. We could play bishop e3 if takes. Maybe he might go queen to e6. We'll have something like bishop d3, d5 after that maybe, and then takes in that position, queen takes, something along those lines. Anyway, I think bishop e3 here is best. Maybe c3 would have been fine there as well, I'm not sure. c3 just seemed a bit passive, so we also develop our bishop. Now bishop c4 is important because black next wants to attack e5, and we want to be able to clamp down on that position with two pieces on the light squares. So I think bishop c4. Might be wrong. We're about to find out. Next, I think c3. We can even delay castling one move, I think. This creates a barrier. How I grab my opponent's queen. c3 creates a barrier. If we play c3, you can imagine the pawns on b2 and the pawns on c3 will be in some sort of barrier, and that will restrict the queen's control of this diagonal, if that makes sense. So I think what are the drawbacks here? Okay. There's one move we have to be mindful of, and that is queen g6, and this forks the pawn on g2 and the pawn on e4. So I think, just because of that, I think I'm going to castle. And castling is fine there. c3 will probably make sense in the next move, probably not this one. And let's see what our opponent comes up with after this. We're a bit low on time, so I'm going to have to talk less and play a bit faster, so bear with me. But I think we're past the really thematic parts of the game. Alright, c3. Let's see what he does. Yeah. Now, this bishop is eyeing some sort of tactics on this line. I think, if I'm not mistaken, now that that knight in the center is defended, let's be a bit more adventurous. I'm not worried about knight takes, bishop takes, and then the queen has to move. Not many good squares. Queen e7, rook e1, let's say something of this sort. Bishop d7, e3. let's say rook somewhere to e8, rook d1, something along those lines. Those are the calculations that I'm sort of seeing. Some might not make sense. Maybe I made a mistake here and there. We'll see. But that's the line that kind of makes sense up until there. These Ukrainians are very, very good at chess. I mean, these Ukrainians, they know the squares, they know what to place the pieces. You see. Anyway, let's be serious. He's now hitting the queen, so enough jokes. I think there's no harm in picking here. I think there's another surprise attack somewhere that I don't want to have anything to do with after this. Queen takes, we have knight takes, but that kind of corrects the structure. Okay. And it does create more room for the bishop. So this will give his bishop a bit more room when that pawn moves from b7. Do I want to do that? And the knight isn't really doing anything. Alright, so based on that, I'm not going to take that knight. Doesn't make too much sense. And instead I'm going to play bishop b3 just to defend the pawn. That way queen can't take, obviously. But I hope that calculation with the knight made sense. If you're helping your opponent develop in some way, or improve their pieces in some way, it's probably not a good idea to just randomly trade. Anyway, bishop c2, to get away from the knight. The calculation is quite simple. Now we've got to come up with plans. Right now we're just defending. Always be comfortable with defending in chess. This move I saw quite early. Not that dangerous. We just move our queen to h4 and we're fine. There's no checks, only discoveries. Queen face-offs are usually dangerous. In this case, it's not dangerous because the queen can easily escape and there's no impending checks from the bishop, which would be the sole determining factor as to whether that move would have been dangerous or not. That being said, there we just go, obviously, queen g3, and now there's a trade-off here. He takes, we have to take back with, if he takes, we have to take back with a pawn, especially, now we can't take with a h pawn. We can take with a h pawn. Reason being, this h pawn will serve as a clamp on these dark squares. That way the knight can't really develop comfortably to our side. At the same time, we make room for f3, and this f3 hits the bishop. And you can see that these pawns will be covering all the light squares in that position. So that being said, I think obviously don't be on autopilot. If a piece is hanging, you don't want to leave it hanging. He's probably going to take now. That bishop isn't really looking too promising. I would have taken two. Now the knight has to move, and now we really have to find a way to put a stop to this knight. It's really causing a lot of havoc and headaches. Now, before I move this a rook, you always have to check what job is my piece doing before I move it. The rook is defending the pawn. If I move it now, then obviously he will take with the rook. So first, let's put our pawn on a3. This also makes room for the bishop. Keeps the light squares open, and say that any plays, I'm tempted to play c4 check, but the problem is c4 check, bishop b3 check, there's c4, and we can't take the pawn. Obviously there's a knight, so what if we start with f4, the knight moves probably somewhere here, and then check, and then when the king moves, after king h8 for example, we have bishop e6. I think that works. Let's see what he does. Looks like a mistake. Okay, there is this, which I didn't see. Missing a lot of moves. Missing quite a lot of moves. Alright, let's go rook f2. Just to cover this pawn in case of anything, so there's no future threats on that square. King moves, and now it's basically a game of open files and entry squares. Here, obviously, we don't want to give our cards away. We want to take, and maybe afterwards we'll play something like F5. So let's say rook takes. He might play something like rook e8. F5 there keeps our pawns clamp. Yep, which is the line that we're going for. Now after rook e8, F5. There is G6, but G6 walks into G4. And then if takes, he has to start with the base. He takes F5, and I think we're okay. So we're surviving. Okay, he helps us anyway. Now, let's get rid of our bishop, because now we have a chance to ruin the structure even more. And now we have a chance to clamp down on these crucial light squares. And this pass on E6 is going to be super crucial to our promotion. Now let's not fall asleep on actually activating our king. It's an okay move, not too dangerous. Let's get our king out. Takes. There'll be takes. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna get my king. I'm gonna try to get my king to this key square here on A4 and D4. Sorry, D5. I really need to learn down. Looks like a draw. Okay, maybe not. Say it's a draw and then I blunder. I don't know how I blundered that position. I really don't. I have no idea. I was. Anyway, such is chess. Let's end the game there as a first game. I was just testing to see if the media and mic and everything is working perfectly. Hope you guys had a treat. Now, one thing I'll tell you guys is I'll post any type of content, even if I'm getting thrashed or destroyed. The thing about chess is you have to learn, as well as from your wins, you have to learn from your mistakes. If you're not ready to do that, you're not going to improve. So let's see very quickly. Usually it's just one move or one idea that collapsed in the process. So up until now we have this knight a4 idea I learned in a book, and engines don't really like it, but the position usually favors white. I think we can agree, let's say at this point in the game, white had an advantage. But I think I made some moves here and there, which didn't quite help. And yeah, we had a good position. Yeah, we were supposed to take that knight ages ago. We didn't do that. And yeah, white's winning here quite easily. Okay, yeah, I remember I had to attack that d5 at some point. And yeah, this is where I missed. This is where the game was gone. I missed this discovery, and that was all it took. This move, I was supposed to at some point get this rook here, lift it up. If there's any tactics, the rook could have broken free to a5, which is a plan I missed. Alright, anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you're new, subscribe and join the gang. And I'll see you guys in the next video.